We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
May thy knife chip and shatter.
What's up, guys? Farooqi Bros here, back with another film review. And today for you guys, we're going to be talking about what might just be the best movie of 2024 when it's all said and done. And we're talking about Dune Part 2. So this is Denis Villeneuve's latest film, what people are calling a masterpiece. It has the highest critic scores of a sequel akin to that of Lord of the Rings, Empire Strikes Back. I mean, Toy Story 2, it's being compared to some of the greatest sequels of all time. Dark Knight, yeah, that's a big one as well. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about our thoughts. And I think I'll kick us off first. So for me, Dune Part 2, I mean, I call this movie a cinematic achievement. I called it a masterpiece. I called it basically every good synonym you could think of, I gave it. I mean, this is an incredibly innovative film. The visuals were jaw-dropping. The performances were all powerful. There was an impeccable score by Hans Zimmer. The themes were complex. I mean, and to use my tagline, I said this is the closest a modern blockbuster has been to the Lord of the Rings. And if you guys know from longtime listeners how high the four of us are on Lord of the Rings, and we consider some of the greatest movies ever made, and this is part of that. So for me, I gave it 5 stars. I was excited for it last year when it was supposed to come out. I was very excited for it this year. But now that it did come out, I think it's going to be quite popular at the awards circuit. Maybe not for acting categories, but definitely for the technical side of things. I mean, I'm just really impressed, and we can get into the weeds of it in a minute, but I do think this resets the standard for what a blockbuster is supposed to be. If you can have more movies like Dune or like Avatar, these movies that take their time and create something instead of, the recent sludge of, MCU or DC movies that have really been kind of falling on the wayside, it'd be good for the industry in general. So let's get right into it. We'll break it down in a couple of ways, but Zion, I want to start with you. What did you think about Dune Part 2?
I pretty much agree with everything you said. I think just on a film level, on every level of filmmaking, whether it's the VFX, the score, the acting, the story, and everything, or adapting the story, I think it did a terrific job on every single level. And there's little to zero, for me, zero issues with anything they did in the film. Like filmmaking wise, I think it was absolutely incredible. I think watching it was like a monumental film. And you made a good point about the recent trend of the assembly line sludge of movies that they keep pushing out. That's like so little substance. They're CGI fests without any care, any real work put into it, just to make a quick buck. And we see that it's really lowering the quality of the movies in general. And I think Dune 2 is once again another return to form of like, okay, this is what a real blockbuster can be. And with the type of craft and the type of work that's put into it, you can get this type of amazing output. Though obviously Denis Villeneuve, he's like one of the top level directors, so not everybody can emulate what he does, of course. But I think as for this movie itself, all of the hype, all of the praise that it's getting is absolutely well deserved. I think it does deserve to be in the category, in the conversation with the best sequels of all time, like a Dark Knight, like a Two Towers, like even Toy Story 2. All of them, these are high level sequels that people think, okay, you're not going to be able to capture the level of the first, or you can't build on top of it to be even better. I think this one just exceeded in every way from what the foundation was that the first film laid out, and it just took the story to a terrific place. And I think the acting really helped as well in that regard, where it really sold that, okay, these characters are going in a certain direction, and it felt very believable, felt very real, and I thought it was just perfect from start to finish. I imagine that how crazy it would have been if this movie actually ended up coming out last year, as was originally planned. I think it would have been an absolute juggernaut of a year last year because so many banger films. But I think looking forward, it is unfortunate that this film came out so early because I do not think there is a single film slated to come out this year that will reach the mountaintop the way this one did.
Samir, what about you, man? Where do you stand on Dune? I mean, you were on Dune Agenda since the first movie, so now the second one's out. Are you still carrying the flag of Dune Agenda?
I mean, I completely agree with what both of you said. It's just so grand, so monumental, and so absorbing. I mean, it's really well thought out for something that's considered to be impossible to adapt. It's crazy how well they crafted the entire world and each character, and it really built on the first one. I think it followed up the hype extremely well, and it's being received as like a historically good film. Uh, and by the end of it, I think it could be one of the best, if not the best, trilogy of all time, with Dune Messiah when they adapted. So I'm right up there with both of you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I want to especially shout out Greg Fraser, but I feel like he doesn't get as much credit for potentially being one of the best in the business, if not the best in the business right now. Because I mean, just look at his recent run. I mean, his last few movies, we got Dune Part Two, The Creator last year, The Batman the year before, Dune Part One, Vice, like Rogue One, Star Wars, like these are some really good looking movies, and every single time the visual language slightly bends to the style. I mean, I was just thinking this morning, I was like, the Batman and Dune. These movies have completely different visual languages, but Greg Fraser perfectly blends it, whether it's with Matt Reeves or with Denis Villeneuve. So I wanted to especially shout out him on a technical level. And then Hans Zimmer, we know he's cooking. I mean, he was cooking the first movie, he's cooking this movie. I mean, there's always something good coming out there. I want to go one more round around all of us, and let's talk about performances. Like, what's any standout performances? Yeah, I'll start with you here. I mean, who do you think was the standout performance? Are there a couple of standouts, things like that? What are your highlights?
I think for me, really the best standout was Timothy Chalamet. After all, I know a lot of people giving Austin Butler his credit, and he does deserve it. He did do a very interesting performance with that character, and took him to an interesting place. But I think Timothy Chalamet, with where they took Paul Atreides, his character, I think he had to play him a certain way, and he did that very perfectly. Obviously, I know we're not gonna get too much of spoilers for those who opt because the film just only a fan first screening yesterday, so it hasn't come out yet. Or fan for screenings one of these days ago, so it hasn't come out yet. But I think his performance, just from the start to finish, you see the journey of his character and how the acting kind of lends into that, how his mindset changes, how his psyche changes, and to the end, it's like, all right, he's gone to a different place, and I think Timothy Chalamet really captured that well, his like kind of arc going through the film and how he changed.
For me, I gotta be honest. Like, I knew, like, hey, the cast is star-studded. So, like, again, I'm pointing on the review. The cast feels like everyone knows they're in something historic. Like, everyone knows it. And it feels like a Fellowship of the Ring in that sense, where you got some of the best and brightest of the time to all just be all in on the movie, and then you could feel it. Like, and Dune feels the same thing. Like, everyone's an A-lister, it feels like. But for me, if I had to pick someone who really shocked me how good they were, not that she's not a great actress, but it's Rebecca Ferguson. I think she cooked. Like, when she was in the film, every single scene, I feel like my eyes were gravitating towards her. She was stealing every moment she was in. So especially as her arc goes, again, people of the book know where it goes, but in terms of the film, I don't want to spoil it either. It's a non-spoiler review. But I think seeing her arc, whether you want to slope it up or down, depending how you see her arc, she captured it really well. And I was genuinely like, yo, she is like all shades of, whether it's manipulative or motherly or protective. It's like everything in one, and it's like, this is really good. So I got a special shout out to her. I'm with you on Timothy Chalamet. I think this is his best role as an actor. I'm a big fan of Austin Butler as well. I think he shed all the jokes that he can't do anything but an Elvis voice. I think he broke that here. And in a movie where so much of it is in the morally gray, it was just really interesting to see this very intense black and white scene of him doing everything that of just being intense. It was really good. But Samir, performances for you, any standouts?
I think I agree with both of you that it's really between those two, since the cast is so stacked. It's really about the character, how they move. So I'd end up going with Rebecca Ferguson. I think she kind of stole the show, even though Timothy Chalamet did incredible. But also, my goat is Christopher Walken. He was pretty good in it.
Yeah. I think Lea Seydoux also did a great job. I think she surprised the film and performance. I think Florence Pugh was good. Zendaya was fine as well. I think it wasn't like her best and greatest role, but I think she did a good job with what was given. A lot of the movie, in a sense, Zendaya is a co-star more than she even is a supporting cast. She's right there as the main character alongside Timothy's Paul Atreides, with the way Denis Villeneuve wants to kind of focus the film down. So I think everyone did a great job. I think, but at the same time, Samir, I'll stick with you. While everyone did a great job, do you see any award potential here?
I don't think so.
I think for Rebecca Ferguson, maybe for Best Supporting, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if Timothy Chalamet is getting his Best Actor nom here. Did he get it for the first one? I don't remember. No, right? Dune got no acting noms, right? It's the first movie. Yeah, I feel like we're getting a repeat of that. But Zion, maybe you disagree, Samir, but I don't think it's happening.
I mean, looking forward at the movies that are going to come out, there aren't that many like hard hitters, I think. So maybe by the end there could be a chance for all of them, for a lot of supporting roles. I don't think Timothy Chalamet will get any nomination, but Rebecca Ferguson, I agree.
Yeah, I think you're right, because 2021 was a stacked year, so I think that makes sense. Like, competition-wise, it was big. Zion, do you agree with the award chances for this movie in terms of acting? Do you see anything there?
I agree that there is a higher chance there could be some supporting, not especially with Rebecca Ferguson, if it isn't like a crazy stacked year. But I think, yeah, for Best Actor, it might be tough for him to sneak in. But if he does, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it just depends on the rest of the year, how it goes, because there could be some sneak entries. Because you think of last year, nobody thought at the beginning there, oh yeah, Paul Giamatti Holdovers is going to be Best Actor nomination and one of the highest chance of winning. Nobody considered that. So if there's more sneak entries like that in this year, then yeah, that would push Timothy Chalamet out of contention. But I think if it is a slower year, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a nom.
One last round table before we head out. Let's be a quick one, because obviously we'll do a spoiler review in our full podcast. But we talked about, like, in the mix of best sequel ever, but let's put pen to paper. I mean, do any of us think it actually is? I'm going to give some names to you for the best performing critically sequels ever. The Dark Knight, Empire Strikes Back, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, The Godfather Part 2, Toy Story 2, and Paddington 2. These are the highest grossing sequels of all time. Highest critically acclaimed sequels of all time. That Dune 2 has now joined. So the question is, and I'll answer myself first, do I think it's the greatest sequel ever? And maybe we're jumping the gun. That's why I'll cop it out and say probably not. I don't know if it's the greatest sequel ever. I think Godfather 2 and Lord of the Rings 2 are still up there, and I can't tell if I would take this over them just yet. But I don't know. Zion, what about you? Best sequel ever, or we're jumping the gun?
We're jumping the gun. It is not the best sequel ever, but I will say it is the best sci-fi epic of this generation for sure. I think it has eclipsed Star Wars, because what we see from Star Wars of this generation, does not come close, even within a million miles of what Dune Part 1 and 2 has been able to accomplish and what they've been able to do. And I think for that, in that regard, it is the best in its category. But as far as best sequel ever of all time, I do not think so.
Samir, what about you? It definitely, from the critical score, it's right up there. But do you think it deserves to be the best? It's one of the best, but is it the best?
Yeah, it's one of the best. Yeah,
I think it's kind of impossible to decide if it's better. I think it's more about preference, what you like the genre or whatever. Because I was thinking about this earlier. If this movie had come out last year, I don't know if Oppenheimer would be the best movie last year, but they're both like perfect movies. So
yeah, I would have still gone with Oppenheimer. Yeah, I would have still gone.
At the end of the day, I think it would probably be about what you prefer, is like the genre or the story, for what's better. And I'd probably have gone with Dune Part 2. I don't know if it's recency bias for last year, but that's just me.
All right. Well, all three of us gave this movie 5 out of 5. So you can see our reviews on cinemadebate.com or on each of our letterboxes, or you can follow us on Twitter to see more. This Sunday or sometime later this week, maybe, you'll be seeing a full spoiler review, hopefully with Mr. Umar with us as well. So we'll get back to you there. What did you think about Dune? If you saw it already, if you haven't seen it yet, hopefully our review makes us want to see it. It's definitely good seeing the biggest screen possible. From myself, from Zion, and from Samir, we're the Farooqi Bros, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.